per hectare. It's only got 2,700 vines. And so in other words, I'm using half the vines. I'm still getting the cordon meters per hectare. And there are two other big things. My tractors are doing a third less driving to spray a hectare, energy saving. And the other thing is that I don't have a topping machine to trim the vines to make them all look nice and square. To me, if you've got one of those, you're a bad farmer. You haven't chosen the right rootstock, you haven't put the right vine in the right place. So what this system has done is we put the vines in the same row, put one vine left, one vine right, so they're a meter apart instead of 1.2 meters. So I'm getting root competition. And also each vine now and the cordon occupies 2 meters of space instead of 1.2. So I'm dissipating its energy by growing more canes. So my production here for Sauvignon Blanc, which they like to have at 8, I can take of 12 to 16 tons here. High quality. It's going on kilometers per hectare. That's what it's all about. So to work our quality grapes, we have worked out how many square meters of leaves do we need to ripen a bunch of grapes. So that we say if we want a top quality grape, naturally a top quality wine, you will tend to have more leaves ripening, less fruit, and your run of the mill you can go down a bit. So this was just a fluke, and at the end of the day, what did we score? We scored all these energy points. So on the carbon neutral, the other thing, people were asking me why the narrow rows? Why? Why were the rows wide in the first place? Who decided that the rows have to be 3 meters?
That's for the trucks, right?
It was because the tractors were that size. There was a mechanical reason. It's no point today you can buy any little Kubota tractor that fits in. So all these blocks that we are doing are using tiny Kubotas. And we're doing a multi-row sprayer. So I'm halving the kilometers per hectare. I'm using 40% less energy using a small tractor. And all these things add up. So on the carbon neutral side, another one is the tar poles. Somebody decided in South Africa that tar poles must be 6 meters apart. Why? Who decided that? Yeah, Jan from somewhere. So he said, well, let's check it. We went to 7.2. It works. 14% saving in poles. It's quick, simple. There are a lot of very simple things. On the score of the carbon neutral, we intrinsically believe that the checkbook option isn't an option to try and neutralize your carbon. So companies have been wanting to hand us money, hand over fist, to buy our carbon credits. We take a more ethical look at it, is that you get off your backside and you actually try and use less energy. So we are trying, and we believe that every year that we audit it, we want to bring our carbon emissions down. That's our aim. Not to go and plant 1,500 trees to offset our carbon and feel good about it. We do plant trees as well. But when we plant trees and we go to Klapmuts, the little town here, we work with an NGO called Trees for Africa, and they train up local people to visit the trees once a month in their own area to make sure the trees are watered and looked after, so that when we say we've planted 1,500, there are in fact 1,500 live trees. A lot of people dish out trees willy-nilly, and maybe 10% of them might ever get. So what's the point of doing it in the first place? Okay, I've spoken about the small tractors, the multi-row. It's running at the moment, I'm pleased to say, so we don't have to lie anymore. It works. In the cellar, it's packed full. I can't pick today or tomorrow because all our red wine fermenters, every corner is full of fermenting reds at the moment. And we need to keep them cool. We want to keep them at 27, 28 degrees. But we have a massive cooling plant that does about 30,000 rands worth of electricity a month. But there's an absolutely natural source of cold water in the dam 200 meters from the cellar, which we use for irrigation. And the fact is that 2 meters under the top surface of a dam, the water is pretty consistent at 16 degrees. So all we do now is you put a tiny little circulating pump, We added a few more cooling panels into the tanks, and we take the wine out the bottom of the dam where it's coldest, circulate it through the tanks, and return it to the dam. So it's a win-win situation. I haven't lost the water, we've cooled the wine, and we've used no electricity. Simple things. So when people come here expecting, hell, we need to see this carbon neutral, what you're up to, it's fundamentally simple things. We've got too lazy because energy's been too cheap. We don't actually think. The boss drives around in a tiny little pickup, or bucky as we call it. I'm the only one allowed a big pickup in this place. But all the others have to be small buckies. He's put little water with some powder in it, and it makes his petrol consumption better by 20%. Little things that we're going to do for the public here is have a compressor for blowing up your tires. You know, if your tires aren't at the correct pressure, you use a hell of a lot more energy. It's all little things like that that can actually save you a hell of a lot of energy. So that's the carbon neutral bit. We're always looking at new things. We're always looking at how can we improve our productivity, always taking in mind the energy. Then there are 2 points that I want to mention on sustainability. We were talking about it coming down here in the trailer. Organic, I've just planted a block up on the hill there, which is, I want to just handle it as an organic block. I'm not a hugely pro-organic person in the sense of that I think that the word organic has been completely and utterly bastardized. You can go and buy a organic spray to kill insects, but it's non-specific, so it will kill everything. What's organic about that, even though it comes from a tea tree or wherever they take all these products from? So for me, the principle is, if it's a non-selective thing, how can it be organic? So I'm saying to myself, well, it's more, and I don't know if you know about biodynamic farming. What's his name? Rudolf Steiner. It's on the internet. It's well worth reading up. It's very in the stars and the moon and the earth's power and silica and cow horns and manure and all sorts of things. But it's basically a very good concept where they create a farm that produces its own rebuilding of its soils with microorganisms by using cow manure, making composts, putting it back out, and making sure that the soils get reinvigorated. And that's what we are doing. When we first came up, you saw those big heaps of mulch. That is all being done so that we can start putting it back in the soils. The herbicides have killed our soils. We have very difficult soils here, very low carbon content. So we want to rebuild the soils. We do it through buying in high quality compost that we bubble in water, bubble oxygen through for 48 hours, which breaks up the chemical compounds and releases a lot of the microorganisms, which you put through the dripper irrigation line onto some compost. It gives them food and they start working back the soil. So within 2-3 years, your soil starts softening up. And that's the thing. So we're trying to get away from herbicides.
Does high density contribute to destroying the soil or not?
I mean, the soil prep is exactly the same. I can't see that it would. I think I'm doing the world a favor by using less soil and not more.
Okay.
I mean, the more why farm, the minute you go bigger. I'm using exactly the same amount of chemicals on the 100 hectares as I would have. I've saved 60 hectares. I don't have to use more chemicals because I've got more vines. Not everybody told me I had to. I haven't. I've got no problems. It just shows you just how much oversubscribed chemicals are. So these are the sustainability is on the soil. Vision, what are my grandchildren going to see here? What's going to be left for them? So this is a huge undertaking that's going to cost us a fortune, but we believe we need to get our soils right. The other sustainability is energy.